be your friend, but now I'm hesitant. Hey yo, can we...
What is it? I'm going to wear a condom on today. That's horrible. Peace, Super Heru Radio. I'm your host, Aseer the Dugateers. That was Friends Without Effing off of our first album, The Birth Record. You are now tuned in live to Super Heru Radio. I'm just walking out. Me and Selena was here watching, what is this, Love and Hip Hop? I don't know. And I'm just astounded by the ianity that goes on in these shows, yo. I didn't even know it was that deep. I'm watching people having sex with people. I'm watching some guy, I don't know, this guy Rich or whoever this guy is. This guy is having sex with one woman, and then the other woman is coming back, and then he's telling her to have sex with the girl that he's having sex with to report back on how they're getting down. Like, do you understand why you all or we all should count our blessings, the fact that we're not in an industry like that right now, where people are just rampantly giving each other wholehearted diseases and compromising each other's moral fidelity and all of that? It's like, for what, man? For a record deal to put out music? Like what? Like, I'm quite sure that no artist, when they first started rapping or singing or dancing or whatever, never thought that they would have to actually give up their eternal soul to do something that they love. Like, what part of the game is that? Where they do that at? Obviously not any place where I'm from, because this shit is crazy. But, you know what I mean? I digress, and I give thanks and praise to the ancestors and everybody else who has come or is coming, our celestial brothers and sisters. Thank everybody for the happy birthday and Happy New Year wishes that I received from everybody that hollered at us this week or hollered at me this week on my birthday, which was the 22nd, which also happens to be New Year, and the vernal spring equinox. So welcome to spring. Thank you again, Creator, for putting me on the planet for this long. Thank everybody for helping and giving us divine prayers and love for the situation that has happened, you know, with my children, who unfortunately I'm still a bit estranged from, but I know everything happens for a reason, and the Creator is going to put me and them in the same vicinity, and those people who worked diligently to break up a man and his family are definitely going to be the ones to burn in their own iniquity. Not just me, but anybody that participates in the destruction of a family, especially people who are families that actually love each other and support. You know what I'm saying? So definitely shouts and praise and thanks to everybody who gave us kind words concerning that based on a Facebook page, post I put up. Also, love and light to a lot of the ancestors and brothers that are no longer here with us. C. Freeman Nels, Brother Steve Copley, Myra Shira L., Brother Uriel Bay, you know what I'm saying, from the Talismanic Kingdom. Also, a lot of the elders that, you know, have passed in the past. And I think that's about it as we proceed or as we begin. So, you know, a lot of wild stuff going on. Interesting, somebody else wrote me about my book, The Dark Soul 418, and the fact that I talked about a comet crashing the Earth around the tri-state area, specifically New York and Harlem area. And it was one that happened to come through on my birthday. So thanks to the ancestors for, you know, looking out for your boy and putting the fireworks out and sending the ancestors back. We are going through a star-seeding process, which is why your enemy has enacted something that they're referring to as Operation Scimitar, which specifically is an operation. Of course, she just melted. Like, oh, it's all good, Dad. For those people in the know that don't understand, all of this stuff that you've been seeing recently, there's been a whole rash all of a sudden, really right around the time of New Year, of all of these pseudo Moors or so-called Moors seizing houses and then getting seized themselves. All of this is coming behind some of the things that are being put down. For instance, there's a lot of sites now popping up that's allowing you to be able to see documentation and go in there and seize cribs and all that type of stuff. A lot of those sites, very few of them, there are a few that's very legit. But in the research, the due diligence that I've done on most of them, one of them is the People's Trust, another one is the American Trust, some kind of crazy shit or whatever, and everybody's bugging out about it. A lot of these sites are actually created by members of the state government. What you have to remember is that the federal government has your status localized and identified with them. Therefore, they're not going to be the one to really hate on you for being and existed in your Moorish habit. The people that's going to hate on you is the state government. And that's because of something that happened in 2008 dealing with the Queen Elizabeth. And that was that she came to Canada and abdicated the throne. Now, why would the Queen of England come all the way to Canada to abdicate the throne, to abdicate her throne in England, of which, after this was done, Parliament had to shut down and reconvene itself here in Canada. So ask yourself this: how could a foreign, if Canada is allegedly was its own country and was separated from the United States in that way, and then was so forth was separated or expatriated from Britain, why then would the queen of a foreign power go to another whole country that allegedly she has no jurisdiction over anymore and then relinquish her throne there? And if that's the case, what does that abdication mean for you, me, and everybody else? Well, for those people who are going to be in Florida on February 20th, on April 20th at Sophia's Garden, you can go on my Facebook page, Aseer Ali Cordoba, and check out some of the flyers I put out. We're going to get into this more deeply and extensively, but to give a little brief overview of it while we're all communicating together, I will let you know that essentially I bust down to the fact of who the Queen of England really is and why she is who she is. And I'm not going to drop it all on you now, but what I will say is the fact that she essentially is a Windsor, or the name that was taken was Windsor, based upon her or the Windsors taking over the throne of Britain during World War II. Remember, the so-called royal British family today are actually coming from the house of Coburg-Saxe-Gotha, or Gotha. You could verify this in a book called Burke's Peerage. You could also get another book called The Holy Aristocracy. I forget the author, but that's the name of the book. Anyway, there's another book called Rebels, Imposters, and something else to the throne. Anyway, the Coburg-Saxe-Gotha are basically descendants of Habsburg. And there was something back in the days called the Hanseatic League. It's almost a mythic history now, or legendary history now, because being the fact that it really relates to you as Moorish people. So, anything that directs to you directly as a Moorish person, they're going to hate on. And the people that they use to really take it to the next level of the hate are the undeclared Moors, the Negroes, i.e., the Africans who were kidnapped from Africa, right? So, based on that, they have a consistent worldview that allies them as chattel. So the thing about that, brothers and sisters, is that when people have decided that they are going to be something, it's not your job to tell them that that's not what they are if they don't want to know that. So based on that situation, you have a lot of people out here that are really hating on your history when you say that you're Moor or Moroccan like that, because they don't want to really accept what that means for them, because then that means that they are not in a free national self. So there's something about when you declare what your nationality is as a Moor, when you really are on that, how that upsets people around you, specifically black people who want you to identify with the understanding or with the so-called black Negro African demonstration, which is good for anybody that wants to be that, you understand? Because what they're doing, in the sense, is honoring their mothers and forefathers. Because remember, I told you, it was those Moors who put themselves outside of the constitutional fold, those Moors who put themselves outside of the overall free national constitution, which today we would call the Articles of Confederation, which are the same articles that the white man hates because it didn't give him any power specifically to have his own army. The only way he was able to receive that power conferred to him was if he agreed to uphold the free national constitution, you understand? Therefore, that means that in order for them to be respected, in order for them to be recognized as the United States, they had to accept your Constitution as theirs. That's why they entered into an agreement to perpetually protect you and your interests from those divisive states that may want to usurp that power now through the undeclared Moors who put themselves outside of the constitutional frame because they held on to the foreign gods of Europe and the foreign labels of the so-called European Moors. So again, brothers and sisters, what that did was exchange the mode by which people were able to express themselves and be themselves. Therefore, when we said, okay, the line in the sand is, in order for you to be a part of this, you got to declare your free national name and stick to it. This was at a time now when you had a bunch of different Moors started calling themselves a bunch of different names because this became in vogue from 1667. From 16, it has that one, roll it right. Get the light. From 1667. So this created a vacuum in which now all of these other nations that was already autochthones, that was already a part of the original Societies Americanos Estados, a.k.a. the Iroquois Confederacy, a.k.a. the Continental Congress, a.k.a. the North Central South America, a.k.a. Al-Maghreb, Al-Aksum, Al-Shekamexum, Al-Amexum, Al-Amazon, or Amazone, right? They wanted to start to be recognized as different nations. So this one start calling itself Choctaw. This one start calling itself this. Now, this is what the individual clans were within the greater empire or nation, but within that, everybody was still an ill or a bay. It wasn't until the days started coming in when things started getting switched up, scrambled up, mixed up. So when people talk about the overall destruction of the so-called Moorish Empire or our government that existed here, who had its capital at Philadelphia, this began in 1774. But at the time that this happened, remember, the United States is not fully recognized as a country yet. Therefore, all the Eurozoids that are working to fight for the Continental Congress are actually traitors to their own masters. Because Washington and all them niggas was esquires, right? So that means they betrayed their oath. So why weren't they taken as traitors or killed or whatever, after the whole war and after the capitulation and all that was done? Because their Freemasonic ties allowed them to maintain the position of stewardship based upon an agreement that would happen 2 years after the chattel slavery started amongst the undeclared Moors in America. There was a meeting at a place called Wilhelmsbad that was presided over John Hanson Bay, that was presided over by John Hanson Bay, and they got together all the so-called Freemasons and all the so-called Moors from the old society, because the shit was really set up to squash the beef in the Bavarian house, because the Bavarians was having problems with the Swedes and the Danes. So the agreement, and this was all because based upon how they was raising up these new Eurozoid males and females into their home and acquisitioning them and giving them titles of nobility or letters of mark, which were letters that they could then go and kidnap noble freeborn Moors and put the marks of Negro, the branded marks or the brandished marks of Negro slave and all that stuff on them when they would catch them up as prisoners of war. Therefore, you in 1774, when you put your line in the sand to say who could do what, who could be what, of course, like even today when you tell black folk, oh, well, you need to do it like this, the first thing they say is, well, who say I need to do it like this? So you can tell them that if you're a black man, if you're a white man, but if you're somebody else, see, they're going to do it different. Because after these people were undeclared undesirables, the Caucasian now could enslave them, or the Eurozoid could enslave them as chattel, as stateless people, as floating vessels, or put them under admiralty, and then force them to help build his country, and not receive any impunity based on the law, no infractions, or nobody coming to get them. So when you think about it, this is why a lot of Moors sometimes come in conflict with people who still refer to themselves by the slave marks. Because essentially the Moors took the position that if you say that you were a slave by your own volition, then I don't have the right to come and free you. That's why you ain't never seen no African other than the Malian Moors. And when they came over here, they wasn't looking for slaves. They was looking for their brothers and sisters who had already came, Abu Bakari and them. Now, way before Columbus. So when we would see people put themselves in a position of servitude themselves based upon their own appellation, then it's not us. So as a Moor, you look at it like, oh, well, then that person identifies himself to be something he isn't. Therefore, he is not a national, you see. Therefore, he's not like me, even though we may be the same color. Complexion-wise, obviously, he's got a different habit. And so these Moors would allow these so-called undeclared Moors now to be branded Negro, kidnapped, and then taken down south to then build this so-called Eurozoid country that they were now creating a caste system through, because they had already acquired the land that was all under the jurisdiction of the Carolingian Empire and the Dugdemoundian Empire. The Dugdemoundian empires allied themselves with the French through the marriage of Queen Anna Maria and Louis, which then fell further down to Kim Badger and the Maison de Rouge, which then put them under a jurisdiction, a fictitious jurisdiction of servitude based upon the Marquis de Maison de Rouge being under the jurisdiction of the Corsican Napoleon, which then put his wife and her nation under the jurisdiction of Corsican Napoleon, which then used that whole relationship to further destabilize the Empire of Haiti, which acted as an imperial navy to protect our shores in tangent with the other aspects of the military guard in what I guess today you would call a Coast Guard that we had. All of the ships was being run by us. And because England represented the 3 colonies, the so-called 13 colonies back then, we're talking about people being blockaded on the eastern seaboard, not being able to go further into the interior of the land, even though they want to make you think they did that. If they was in the interior of the land, like they was during the 17, or what they would say in the 16, 17, 1800s, like that, then how come they didn't? They had to wait for the Great Land Grant or the Great Land Grab for them to do that. Why it took so long? Why I had to wait for Manifest Destiny to do that? Because they was able to confer fictitious jurisdictions over people through the addresses by following the tandem of what happened through the British East India Company. That was now reorganizing itself to accommodate now all of the Moorish nobility that was now seeping into the royal blood or the ranks. Therefore, our position or world power as a world power was perpetually consistent so long as we maintained the imperial powers of our state. Our state depended upon our state of mind, not our geographic state, because anywhere a Moor existed is Morocco, you understand, or is a part of the Moorish Empire. And then through the Gods on Earth demonstration, that showed us then that is also then the best part. So because we're still at a state where people would rather accept that Scientologists can be in the NOI, but Elijah Muhammad can be in the MSTA, shit like that, those are the things that's keeping you locked up. Meanwhile, you got organizations like the Moorish Orthodox Church or the Noble Order of Moors, another thing called NOM, peace be to the Moor who hit me to that, checking these devils out. These people went in the 50s while you was dealing with civil rights and all that crap. These white people went and started studying what your prophet left you and started studying the real tenets of what the MSTA really was, and then basically set up a situation where they got their own passports, where they got their own conventions, their own get-togethers, where they calling themselves Moors, and they got images of Prophet Noble Jali in their house, and they got all of that. And ain't nobody going on CNN going to them, asking them if they really Moors and whether or not the U.S. have jurisdiction and none of that. You don't even hear about them. Only time you hear about them is when you get one of these Freemason Moors that want to get one of these bastards on their show and show that they got connections with these niggas, and these niggas ain't conferring no real science on it, how they get their passports or who gave them the authority to do none of this. So they not debating on whether or not they Moors or not, and they're not even that. The prophet said that they can't be Moors. They could be Celtic or Persian. But they calling themselves this, saying that I'm imam of my own self, going in on the theocratic, ecclesiastical magic of this shit, and these Moors are trying to sell you packages about traveling and shit like that. What's the use of having a writ to travel when you can't even travel into the inner recesses of your mind and your spirit and your soul to divine the fact that this is a divine national movement, that the express trust was already given to you and it was expressed in trust in that Circle 7 Quran. But these niggas got you thinking that this Moorish science shit is like the same as black history. Again, in the trick bag and telling you that it's a Gucci bag or a Louis bag, and so you cool with it. So you like the rich white woman that walks with the $15,000 doggy Gucci purse that she could walk around with the dog in it and then clean the crap out. Like, it's useless. They're not debating on whether they Moors or not. They just doing it. And because they doing it under the premises of how it was allegedly supposed to evolve into, your Negro leaders, all Shriners and Freemasons themselves, were purposely went to lead you away from it and have been generationally getting paid off of it. You come from a rich, noble people, man, that have nothing to do with this other crap. But because you are bombarded with these underclad Negroes that got mad at you in 1774 for making a delineation between you and the riffraff, they worked as slaves in the other government to keep your government destabilized. And the white man, the so-called white man, is playing the role so long as he can, so long as he can make you think that that's what it is. Because he knows that he's blackmailing all of these so-called boulets behind this. That's why when a slave, in terms of government, goes to meet an elder of state, he has to bow. That's why he had to bow to receive the chain from Saudi Arabia around his neck, talking about the president. But a noble to noble, y'all bow to each other. So the same time they got their new pope now, the international common law done already put out the edict for his arrest. So that means they're going to have to get rid of him soon. So look for that. like, one thing we got to understand as Moors, too, don't think every so-called cracker or European is down with this shit, man. These white Moors that I just told you about is an example of that. They hedge their bets with us in the end. So the same way these niggas exist is the same way anytime these people want to talk to you about being Moors or whatever, you need to mention these white people and subpoena them to come in there and tell the white man why you were Moor and whatever else you want to do in court. They got websites and all of that. They got conventions where they got white Moors all over the world down with that shit. And that's cool, but how come there's no universal fellowship with the true and living Asiatics, the ones that's here by blood, by just sanguineous, meaning by the blood? Because they want to replace you. So the real science is that you was never a nigger at all. The real science is, in 1751, your ancestors created a treaty with the British Empire that then forced all the other empires to capitulate, which then put them, hey, what's up, man? Which then put them all in subjugation and subordination to recognize you as an international emissary. This is in 1751. This is before the Civil War started amongst the Cherokees in 1754. So that means in 1751, you already had something in play internationally that protected you internationally. So that way, by 1774, when you lost your traditional nationality here in America, all you had to do is get it back by accepting the free national constitution. But even if you didn't do that, you still had the international shit going on, popping through the British Empire that was still basically getting money off the United States at the time. The only reason why the British Empire recognized the United States after the war was because the Moroccan states initiated the agreement. They the ones who really started to broker the peace and then passed it off to Spain, which were basically Moriscos, the amalgamated Moors, the Days. So the precedent was already set. So even when you lost it, you didn't even really lose it. You still had it. You just didn't know you had it because the niggas that was supposed to tell you about it started to tell you to go the other way and started talking to you about other stuff. Started talking to you about civil rights and the fact that you was enslaved and you were 3/5 of a man and all this other crap. And then all of a sudden now that the descendants of the Xiang dynasty Moors that came back over here and then moved up north and then interbred with the let's say traditional Choctaws, the Cherokees and all of them, and then the ones that started to take the white women as payment, started to amalgamate with them and created the people we today call Native Americans, who really were originally descended in the early 1600s from those white people that was escaping the death and famine on the plantations or the colonies. So they're Caucasian people, but now they're starting to enslave the undeclared Moors too, which then is giving them money because the only way they could latch themselves onto the land is by having a Moor that was basically represent them being moored or anchored, that they could be responsible for, because these Moors, the inside joke was that they're undesirables because they were kicked out of their own country by calling themselves things, by allying with Europe. So you had Moors that was L's and Bays and was just violent, acting like the wild Arabs that you see in movies like what was that movie? The Devil's Double. Moors acting like that, just bugging. You know what I'm saying? But then being Bays and L's, but then also calling themselves Ethiopians and all of that. Like, you can't do none of that. So we had to create the delineation. We had to let niggas know I'm not down with it. It's got to be too much. So the same goes on today. You got all these people acting like all of these different things they doing is going to like manifest into something that's going to help us, and it's not. Because they don't want They don't want help. They want things to stay exactly how they are, if not get worse. That's what the book Atlas Shrugged was about. If I had the patience to sit there and watch the actual movie, go through it, it might be dope. But the overall story is what we've been saying. They blow up their own roads. They sink their own ships. They cut their own phone lines. They break their own thing because they want to break the human spirit. So when you declare yourself outside of the colorable system that they set up for you to operate through to allow them to function, you become a problem. So they rather acknowledge a more that's not a real more, you know what I'm saying, meaning a true melanated more working in their own true capacity. That's after a while, you're going to get to the point where they ain't even going to deal with you. They don't even want to deal with you. They don't even want to talk to you. But that's what you want. That's a sign that you're supposed to have your own. So once you set up things properly and declare yourself in the proper fashion, you don't have to worry about the repatriation and kidnapping, because now once you get back to that level where it's reestablished those international ties, you have now the protection of people that will come to your aid. Same way Russians came for Castro. All of that was connected to the whole profit thing. All of that. And because, again, we take history based upon what they say it is, and don't build it for ourselves. We take their version and try to either prove or disprove their version instead of understanding your own version of how it goes. Because that's what history really is. It's whoever survives into the future long enough to tell what happened. The person had to be on the good side, then they're going to tell the good side what happened. The person want to be the bad side, they're going to make it seem like the good side was the bad side. That's all it is. Who's going to survive long enough to put it down? So when the Neanderthals were coming out the caves and they was able to sneak up to the point where they could get to the point in the mountains where they could see the tops of the pyramids, and then sneak further down and get to the edge of where the wilderness or where the wilderness and the actual mountain region ended, with trolls and all that lived, where they could actually see the images of whatever hamlets or villages or pyramids or castles they had. They would go back to their caves and paint their versions of that, of what they saw. You understand? And that lasted in those caves for thousands of years for people to go back and see, and for each generation to interpret it and put more aspects to the picture. That was them basically mimicking our evolution and the creation of pyramids and the creation of actual civilized culture. That was existing while these people were in the caves and all that. They want to make it seem like while the Neanderthals and the Triassic and the Jurassic and the Proteic and all of these periods that they throw in your face, these were all regenerative periods of the earth, based upon the great cataclysm that turned everything upside down in the first place and ripped everything apart. So this Triassic, Jurassic, all of those represent the phases of Earth now going through its regenerative period due to the great cataclysms and the cleaving from that 66 trillion years that we understand as the descending of the tribe of Shabazz, or Shabbat Shalom Shabazz, into physical form through the Merkabah vehicle, upgrading and downgrading at the same time into a physical, non-physical form that we'll call the Asiatic or more, or Elohim or Yahweh. Elohim being the L's, Yahweh being the Bays. So this gives you a different context when it comes to you dealing with these Jews and why you don't understand why they be hating on you when they see that day and all of that on your name. Because when you really do it the right way, you cancel out everything that they have already said you are. Therefore, you reinstate yourself back to the free national constitution. That's why all American, scholars of American history in the United States universities don't like the Articles of Confederation because, again, that protects us as black people. So if you look at it as black people represent a whole different country in this country, This would show you why so many black people are incarcerated and preyed upon and all that, because we're seen as foreign invaders on their land. But their land is not the land. It is the trust that the land is in, that they have had based upon these Moors who have been undeclared and calling themselves all these different names to do all of these different things and then work with this white man in tandem. So him knowing that these niggas is not genuine, him having that on his side to further disenfranchise themselves from their overall position on the planet as the true and first government of the world. This is why you have to be a divine national movement and not a national movement and not a physical so-called, you are a Republican. You, as Moore, you're a Republican because you are the representative of the true republic. De jure. Not the extraneous homos. Citizens of the United States are extraneous homos. They're not real. That's why homosexuality is so relevant and prevalent in colorable societies such as Rome, such as the United States, because the homo aspect of homo habilis, homo erectus, homo sapien, homo superior, these are all aspects of man. Yet man is not necessarily the beginning of humanity. Man is nothing without the woman. You understand? The man is the balance to allow the woman to incarnate the reality. So when one's not there and she has to be both, she's now split in a juxtaposed position where she is now having to delegate both authorities, which then automatically puts her at odds with the man who is supposed to be the one dealing with all of that himself. Not because anyone say so, but because that's how it is. Certain things are not fair because that's just how it is. Just because you're a woman and you can box and fight don't necessarily mean you need to be having 5 fights a year. Get your face bashed in and your breast bashed up and all of that. You don't need to do all of that just because you can do it. Just because you can play football in your lingerie doesn't mean you necessarily need to do that. Because I'm not watching the game for the game. You dig? But that's the game, you see? And that's the United States. So you have athletic people, you have athletic people who have the ability to be athletic and do things, but then at the same time you can't even focus on that because you got them stripped out, slutted out. And that's the United States. And so when you can delineate yourself as an American, in our case, an Autochthon American or a Moorish American, Autochthon American, then you're talking about yourself in the proper person as what that means in a global context, which only we as so-called Moroccan Americans can truly define. The Kingdom of Morocco, the emperor over there, they don't have no jurisdiction over you, but as a true noble Moor, in your proper fashion, you could write Prince Rashid a letter and go over there and build with him. And he will accept you as a dignitary and all of that, once your stuff is right. But your stuff can't be right if it's coming from a place that's not going to give you the tools to do that. And these black scholars can talk to you about black problems and social programs all day, but at the end, when you say, okay, well, what we going to do? And they start telling you, oh, well, okay, you got to go and establish, a relationship with this nonprofit program or this not-for-profit organization that provides this for this people, then you bringing me right back into the same system, man. You forcing me back into a limited liability partnership with the same beast that I'm trying to extricate myself. At least the Moors are saying, we want our own shit and we don't want to be a part of y'all shit. Just leave us alone. That's really all Moors are saying. So when a Moor takes the position of, oh, well, you don't have jurisdiction over me, that may be the wrong thing. That's like waving a steak in front of a rabid dog. Like you don't want to give him anything that he can't deal with. Because remember, these people are savage. They lawless. When the Queen abdicated the throne in 2008, you got to remember, know your history, especially your history dealing with nobility, birthright, birthright, nationality, and inheritance when it comes to monarchy. Not, I don't give a damn what monarchy it is, because all monarchy come out of you. So this nigga could be an albino. If he got some sort of day or some type of title of nobility, that comes from my people. My people bestowed him on that. The Moors specifically. You see what I'm saying? Us specifically. Moors. I don't care if there was Moors from America, Moors from Africa, Moors from Spain, Moors from Europe. There was some dark-skinned Moor with a turban or a fez or a kufi or something who was speaking some next-level shit that everybody jumped on, and that allowed them to be around for another 25,000 years. That was us. It wasn't no Negro. It wasn't no African in terms of an Africoid, whatever the hell that is. If you really do the history of ancient Libya, you will read about a people called the Afri who were actually like albino or white. And they started advancing on some of the other tribes because they had been imported from an earlier kingdom. Again, this is the whole Yaqub thing. But because, again, major parts of the history is taken out, you don't really do the knowledge. So the mystic spell of everything that was popping was really just an aspect of us being on such a high frequency that as we began to take that for granted, our light began to slow down and the vibration began to get a lot slower. And then we started relying on things that had nothing to do with anything real. And then pretty soon, we, again, got to the point where we didn't care about what our nationality and nobility and none of that was. So when you do the history of monarchy and nobility, you would know that the king seizes everything for the queen. Therefore, the dowry is given to the queen. Therefore, when the queen abdicated the throne, it created a vacuum here, not only over in Europe, but also in America. This was also coincided with the time that this dude became president, and also coincided with the time of the European bailout and the bankruptcy that George Soros and all of these niggas was taking advantage of. This was the overall destruction that was now wrought because the queen of Coburg, Saxe-Gotha, who was really a descendant of the old Yorks. This is old Yorks are the descendants of the first people in the Prince Hall thing. And those first people in the Prince Hall thing were the people who were dealing with the high science of the original man in terms of building, like with the higher thing. But these descendants of the Quechua society, I guess, sent their children, these Moors, overseas to build with these other Moors, and they started adopting them ideas. And when they came home, around the time of Prince Hall and all of that, that's when they started to adopt these ways and agreed that they needed to set up a lodge that was outside of the Quechua society, but was going to represent an aspect of the knowledge that was hidden from the general masses on the colonies and the plantation. And that became the charter for African Lodge 459. That in order for the European G7 Lodge to fully be realized, it had to recognize this lodge because this is the lodge that would actually give them legitimacy. Because the people who founded the Prince Hall Lodge were actually the descendants of the true members of the Quechua Black Nighthawk Society, also known as the Ancient False Space Society, otherwise known as the clan of, the deers or the elks or the crows or whoever. So out of these nations, individual Moors from the clans of the Bays and Eels come these different aspects, and then through that, Prince Hall does that, and now the Sons of Liberty need to have their own, and so Prince Hall becomes the vehicle or the force for them to do that through. So once the G7 Lodge allows them, they have to practice the ritual of reclamation, where they now have to obtain the charter before it is shipped away. to the Sultan. So they paint themselves to look like Moors to get on the boat, and once they get on the boat, they start throwing the tea off as a distraction, the false door or the false faith, for them then to go into the bows of the ship and find a charter. That's the only reason why you see images of the charter of 359 today, 459 today. But again, this is Blue Lodge history that the Blue Lodge Masons, who are the true descendants of York, don't even know, because they have sworn an oath to keep their ignorance a secret, or the fact that their degrees were switched up by one of their own members. A guy named Thornton Jackson, who was the liaison to Albert Pike, the founder of the Knights of Pythias, or the KKK, the terrorist organization whose uniform was made to mock the Moors of Granada, the priesthood's uniform of the Moors in Granada, to turn you subliminally and psychologically against your culture without you even knowing that. And so this leads to what Ida B. Wells referred to as over 100 years of lynching, where they start to adhere the history that they created for you now in their country as citizens of the United States or chattel slavery Negroes to adhere to. That's why you had what you call free blacks or free men walking around at the same time you had so-called slaves walking around. But in that, this is what they were able to do to perpetuate their overall society and allow their country to grow. But to do that, they had to force you into a greater labor force in terms of factories. So everyone had to be enslaved into that. And that's what everybody started to do. And so the Civil War had to go down to allow the South to become equal with the North, so that way they could enforce the Industrial Revolution to propel the United States forward and keep America as an aestheticized version of what the real America is in terms of us, being the chattel slavery or credit that they are using to maintain America, the United States, in control, because we have not reconvened our government. So the Illuminati ship was created to allow you to believe that their whole society and all of that was somehow based, this whole ancient society of pyramids and all that was somehow based on them, and they created that while you, well, they don't really have a story for you prior to Columbus and all of that, but other than that, this is the story that they rock with. Then they make some movies, get some niggas to do some DVDs, and pretty soon this becomes now the oral history of the pyramid now. See what I'm saying? So these organizations and orders and stuff like the Illuminati and stuff like that did exist, and these great conventions happen to utilize and bring these rogue factions back into balance. But this balance would take over 250 to almost 500 years to fully come into view. So as we approach the end of this, the cracker has now instituted something called Operation Scimitar, where he's now focusing on Shriner influence groups that he actually have the ability to maintain instances of unilateral control of things. Yet his targets are, what I'm seeing, based on a lot of shady characters to begin with. See what I'm saying? So, therefore, language such as sovereign citizens and things like that, a lot of these things they already had out, you know what I mean, in the beginning of the changeover after 9/11. But see, no one can deny you your nationality. So these niggas can tell you whatever they say that you are, but in the end you are what you know you are. And so long as you ain't catch no body, understand? And so long as you have rescinded, meaning given back the instruments and corrected what's on file negatively with them, there's no way that they can say that you haven't done the second part of the Emancipation Proclamation, which is the Proclamation Declaration. But because most Moors don't declare anything themselves, they just do it in the county and think that's it. See what I'm saying? Nothing really gets done. So it's a lot of busy work with no accomplishment. Because you have specific Moors that are urging you to do things that are contrary to what you're supposed to do. Not because you are somehow in league with the devil. It's not because if this devil is next to me and he's, talking to me civil, like if I got a pig that's standing next to me and the pig is treating me with respect, and right next to me is a Christian woman or whatever, and she's damning me to hell and all of that because I'm wearing a turban or a fez, then guess who I'm going to talk to? I'm going to talk to the pig, man. And when I say talk to the pig, I mean like talk like inform. I got to be specific. But I mean talk like be civil. I will be civil to anyone or any being that's civil to me. I don't give a damn what color they are, how many niggas they hate or done killed. That's the difference with me and the traditional red-blooded or bloodthirsty African or barbarous or barbarian. I'm not so hateful in my heart that I'm ready to take out my sword and just kill every cracker I see. But I always have my sword and be ready to do that. You know what I'm saying? Because they may be ready to do that to me. But that don't mean that that's the first foot I'm putting out in every situation I get in, because I'll never get nowhere. I don't have to have an apron around me. You understand? I know how to cook food without spilling it on myself. I know how to eat without dribbling the food and shit on myself. So I don't need to wear an apron like a child. You understand? That's what they doing. They put you back into a spiritual second childhood when they put you through these changes, these ropes, these dances. So again, because the Blue Eyes don't know their real history, they don't know they true connection to the Queen. So because all the land was given to the Queen as dowry, when the Queen abdicated the throne, that means that it laid open the form for the real common law to come back into existence, because the trust of Virginia and everything else that these niggas set and put in her name, and her name is any queen that sit on that throne. So part of the way for them to be able to be in the situation they was in, for her to do that, based upon her lineage and connection to you as Moors, the Moors of ancient Canaan. That's why she had to abdicate the throne in Canaan, in that mainland America, or Canada and not mainland America, because that opened up the physical land now that was no longer held in trust for her because she gave it up. So now the states who basically have taken oaths to uphold the land in her name as trust by proxy through the so-called United States Constitution, right, are now lawless because they don't have nobody that they're really under. That's why the judge in North Carolina started urging everybody to put their shit into regular property, into real property, and start to hide it, because these states don't have the jurisdiction to do what they're doing no more as an aspect of state government, because state government in the end is all related to the crown and all of that over there. So from that, in the same year that she abdicated, that's when they created the International Court of Common Law. And this is crackers doing it. Right? The International Court of Common Law that was to run ink into what happens in The Hague. So the very first case tried in this aspect is that. Is the abdication, is the calling for the arrest of the Pope and all of that had already happened, which is why they had to give up, this nigga had to give up his seat. And now the new one is in there. I done seen the arrest warrant for him too. That anybody could grab this nigga. That means any bail bondsman in the world, the Pope got to be careful in certain places he go to if you're going to be Pope, because they will bag him up. So that means when you read the edict of the actual decree, it actually says that all of the Vatican is perpetually disestablished. That means we have to have our own situation to come into view. So that means that everything is subject to forfeit. And as a true noble under international law, you can act as the peace officer that does that under the flag of peace, which is what they call the all-white flag. But when we grew up in America, they said that was the flag that showed surrender. It does show surrender if you fly it at the end of the conflict. If you fly it before the conflict, according to international vestiology, you are protected by it, and any nation that doesn't observe that falls under or goes into what's called least favored nation status, which nobody wants that. So because the British credit rating went down, this is why the British credit rating went down. This is why the American credit rating went down, because they no longer have the trust or the dowry of the queen to maintain that. That's why they had to get this chick pregnant with twins, or they hoped twins, during that whole ritual where they killed the nanny when the black hole and all of that opened up. When them two comets or whatever collided. There's a method to all of this working out, or they hope for them, but it ain't going to work because all of the linchpin is the nobility of America. Those are the true tribe of Ben Ishmael, the true chosen people of the original land of ancient Canaan that we'll call the Garden of Eden. The people who really got it together after the great cataclysm 66 trillion years ago and really created something grand in the form of Atlantis, and even when that was destroyed, created something even iller. So, after you received all of that, you were supposed to receive your land back, 36 by 30, 30-6. That's why you were supposed to get the great interior of the whole country. And because there wasn't so many Europeans coming in at the time, it was still us as the majority, and that's why they hated Lincoln so much. And why the Pope sent Booth, who was a Jesuit, who there's pictures of him wearing a fez as a Zouave guard, which were Moors who were paid as mercenaries of the Vatican, therefore Jesuits, and brought in to fight during the Civil War against the Hessians, who were Dutch and members of the Habsburg and Hanseatic League, mercenary Moors, who set up that whole old mercantile system that became known as the Marines, the Hessians and the Huguenots in them. So this long, illustrious history of your society as a theocratic aristocracy that is a true isonomy is the only one in existence in the world, and has been so crept upon that they've cut it up into different empires. So they make you think Hannibal was one thing, and Cleopatra was one thing, and Ramses was one thing. And all of these people were part of a grand empire and a part of a grand family that you are part of, because they all descend from the Els and the Bays, the Ills and the Hills and the Bays, what they call Theanus. Don't ask questions you already know the answer to. So it becomes situations where we can no longer afford to suffer the foolishness of indecisiveness. So you can be and love African history all you want. All you got to do is whenever you see the word African, flip that for more. And this is not to shit on an African, because really I'm not, because there's no such place in the world called Africa. Keep it real with you. To keep it ultimately real with you, there's no place in the world called Africa. That's just what they call that place now. But that ain't the name of that place. So, again, if we talk about the divine family of the theocratic nation state or Moorish Science Temple period, we're talking about something that cannot be codified into the tenets of what the United States wants it to be. So when you take the offense in your position and establish yourself in the right way instead of establishing yourself in a defense mechanism, you come off more credible. But these dudes don't allow you to get to that level because they got you practicing false rights and false information. But that's what you want to. But part of this, I'm seeing that that's part of it. You sometimes got to go through the false shit to see what the real shit is. But that's why you can't believe the most impossible shit. You got to really see it manifest by doing it step by step. But to keep it real with you, this is the first time in history where we've got to the point to be able to take these steps to do something like this. So we can't feel like we're somehow behind the 8 ball. So now that they done put you on CNN and got some people talking about moral stuff and all of that, they're trying to make it seem like you're an antagonistic element in the United States. But they know that that's not true, because they got paperwork going back decades on the Moral Science Temple, decades. And they know what real temples and who real temples really are and how they really function. Use the gift card Crystal gave me. So you got these so-called, so again, and when you go online and you see these Moors, you don't see them talking about no white people, but all of these so-called white Moors are the ones with all of the issues with all of these passports and all of that, and they using the same passport that the Prophet set up. Do you understand what I'm telling you? I'm telling you that the Moors took that passports that they was issuing to their members in the 20s. You understand? In the 20s, man. In the teens. Remember, the temple was founded in 1914 to calculate the end of the double civilization. That's why, because we came back into existence, but we funded ourselves. So how do we digress to this? Because Negroes started being able to become millionaires through this Harlem Renaissance thing. And they became a vested interest in the United States. So you got the gnomes, which represent little white people with red caps, who are calling themselves the Noble Order of Moors. This is what they call themselves. Then you got the Moorish Orthodox Church, and you ain't got one nigga in there that's willing to come and talk to you. But these niggas is traveling all over, using you, talking about your prophet, all of that. How come when you do it? How come they not on CNN? How come they're not going to them? Because they know that it's real, but they know that these people capitalize off the other, and they know that these other niggas got you caught up in civil rights, which then got you into black liberationism, and then got you into liberation theology. And that became your mindset for the next 60 to 70 years. So now you done been so used to being a nigga that you can't think of being nothing else, and that's why these white people are caught up to you, because you done slowed your vibration now enough where they can mimic you enough to really be you. To really be you. You dig? So that's why you got to almost sometimes give thanks for people like George Bush, because he fully niggerized the white race so much that they now have adopted it to the point where they the ones trying to walk around and be more nigger than you. So what you got to understand now is that that's what they all doing. That means you're supposed to be ascending into something else. Because this is what we did to them with rock and roll and jazz and disco and all that shit. So, oh, y'all niggas is into that? Oh, we're going to create this. We went past that. You got to get to the point where you still baffling these niggas where they don't even know your language. Like, you still speaking slang, they don't even know. They got you so down to they beat that you dance to they beat now. You understand? They know first in time, first in line. They know that law, but they're going to act like they don't know so long as you don't know. And the reason why you don't know is because you still function under labels that they've given you to be based on niggas that's trying to keep you secret so they can keep getting money with the white man. This is Stephen, who is Yakub, and Carl Candy, KKK, or the KFC. Knights of Columbia, Knights of Pike. So while this is going on, they triggering their other slaves. Do this Operation Scimitar shit. This is them now with the cracker, with the brother who tried to kill the dude for the Illuminati sacrifices. What he want to do? All of that is mind control stuff, man. All of that is trigger stuff. And these niggas have lost their mind so much that when you are undeclared, you open for demonic possession, alien abduction, hauntings, night terrors. You open to all of that because you don't have no real spiritual direction. Okay, you believe in Jesus, but you believe in Jesus through Eanity. So you believe in Jesus that lacks of substance. You don't believe in Christ. You don't believe in Yehoshua, Emmanuel, because then you would have to go back to being an eel. And these old, the people that's keeping the reality like it is too, are these old black women Christians. They really have held on to this reality for him for so long. You understand? That it is actualized into this self-defecating black person, black woman woman that will mutilate her hair follicles, who will mutilate herself. You know what I'm saying? Will mutilate herself to the point of ugliness, of barrenness, to appear like a woman that she says she don't want to look like. So, but then when this woman, right, produces a son and all he sees is his mother try to lighten herself would be like this, something get in him and say, okay, well, I'm going to just get a white woman. And then you'll get mad at him. Or not. Some women look at that as a step up. Like, oh, well, he's coming up now. Like, this is the level of the game. This is what happens when the father is kicked out. This is what happens when the father is willfully teaching. Yeah, the Queen says a homosexual. Yes, is a willful homosexual in the aspect that he would allow his son, like, for instance, we channel surfing one night, and she clicks past this show, House of Lies, with Don Cheadle. And he's sitting there playing poker with his son, his father, and his brother, who's being played by Lorenz Tate. And he's doing the thing with the cards or whatever, but the son is gay. He's got, like, eyeliner on and all this, and there's all these black men there. And they're talking about the game and all this other stuff and all of that. And I'm looking at this show, and I'm like, yeah, but remember, the show's called House of Lies. So in any normal family, if this is going on, there's a bunch of black men going on, and there's a little boy that's sitting there with eyeliner on, they're going to start talking to. If they real men, they're going to be like, yo, homie, what's wrong with you? Like, what's going on? What's going on at home? Where's your dad? Like, what's up with you? How you letting him just be like that? And again, I'm not trying to disrespect anyone who is homosexual or transgender or any of that. I'm just saying that in the culture that I live in, right, that's not sanctioned. And even when it was, right, there was places in the society that happened, like in India. They had what they call eunuchs, and these people who were men but came off like women who were also, they also called them dervishes or dervies or devis. And they would come and give people spiritual advice because of them being like that. But that didn't mean that they had sex with men. That's the funny thing. A lot of them had wives and heterosexual sons. So what's up with that? So I'm saying all of this to say that the problem with homosexuality in the United States is that it is being used as a militarized agenda to effeminate males to perpetuate an idea so that way they don't fight back or be taken seriously as men by the women. So that way the more that the black homosexual is revered and put out there and put in play as something viable, this means now the more white women are grabbing onto this white man, now they can get in the black woman's head and say, see, he's choosing everybody but you, so you need to get with me. And because all of the roles that's out there for white males now are always them in these heroic positions, even when they are gay, they're in these great positions where they always have money, where they always basically running something, where they always telling somebody else what to do, where they always have some type of black friend or somebody else there bigging them up, telling them how great they are. What does that do psychologically to somebody who is susceptible to emotional, behavioralized patterns? This is why all of these shows are used as mind control. Don't you find it odd that all of the women that's on these TV and making all this money all got blonde hair, and none of these women are black? I mean black in terms of acting. See, you can't really tell somebody that you really love yourself if you're mutilating yourself at the same time. I'm not saying that you don't have to wear makeup. I'm saying you could do that if you want. But if you do it to the level where you got to do it every day, something's wrong. I'm not even trying to diss you. I'm not trying to act like a therapist. And I'm just saying, as your brother, something's wrong if you feel that every day you get up, you got to look in the mirror and put something on your face to look pretty. Something's wrong. Somebody in your life did not tell you that you were beautiful regardless to that. Like I said, if you want to do that sometime, cool. But every day? You mean to tell me you'll perm your hair and not sleep on your head? Where you got to wear a prop? Where you almost got to sleep sitting up and not even wash your head? Every day? Every other? How often you get perms? I don't know. How often you get perms, man? A woman will get perms? Once every 3 months. A touch-up. So how long before you wash your head? And you're going to have 2 weeks before you can wash your hair? No water in here for 2 weeks? If you got a doobie. Come on, man. Madam C.J. Walker got you. She got you. She got you. And she was a madam for real. She was pimping hoes. She got you. This is what she was doing to them, to keep them under control. This is real talk, man. I'm not trying to diss you, and I'm not trying to create it, because there's men doing this to themselves now. And we're the last people in the world that have to do that. We're the only people in America that say, look, I ain't getting no haircut. I ain't doing none of that shit. I ain't combing my hair. I'm going to just dread it. Like, we the only people to do that. I was in D.C., everybody had locks, G. Like, everybody had, Maryland, everybody had locks. That shit was crazy. It was amazing. I was astounded. I was like, wow, this is really the Chocolate City, huh? Chocolate City is also the name of Old York in England. And the crest got a fez or a freedom cap, which is what you see on the gnomes, which is why these crackers call themselves Noble Order of Moors. How you going to be that and not have no real Moors around you, or even try to help the Moors with the real knowledge? That's how you know they're coming up. How many of them you think adopted black babies? And I bet you they raising them Moorish. But no, you got to fight with your baby mother because she a Catholic, or she a Baptist, or she a Episcopal, or she's a this, or she's a that. She don't want him to have no name. My baby mother went so far as to change my daughter's name illegally, just to deny her nationality, because somehow she thought that was somehow like messing with me. That's why I said it's illegal. She go to jail. I can press charges. That's what I'm trying to say. It's real talk. I'm not special. This shit didn't happen to me. That's why I could talk about it. And this was somebody who told me about Moors. I didn't even know what that shit was until I met her. What does that say? This is real talk, man. You understand? Crazy. To the point, when I'm raising this baby Moorish, I've got this baby wearing burnouses, all of that. Because now you don't want to deal with it, because you done permed your head, because you don't want to do all this. Now that's a problem. But in the end, what could I really say? I chose this person. I believed this person when this person came. Because I didn't believe that I was in such a place with somebody who I didn't even know knew me before I knew anything about them, could maybe use that one day against me. So what does this say? And this is what I mean about the overall situation. You got to be on them, man, because this is what happens. So at any time, you know what I'm saying, it's already rectified, because whatever the baby started out is what she's going to be. And I already corrected everything I needed to correct with that. You dig? But in the very end, it's about the principle of the matter and how sick our people have become, where we'd rather be undeclared, where it's cool to be something that doesn't exist. I'm not mad at anybody for believing what they want to be. If you want to be a Rasta and all of that, you could be all of that, man. I don't care about any of that. But when it comes to this country, my dude, what are you going to stand up and be, man? So what? Just because I'm going to use my free national name, Prince Charles Edward B. Rogers L., I somehow am going against Aseer Ali Allah? How can I do that when they're both the same person? And by person, I mean living soul, being, not corporation. I'm not ashamed of the name that my mother gave me. I don't look at that as a slave name. Whoever's telling you that these are slave names, like, you got to really look at what these people are telling you, man. They're telling you that the name your mother gave you was a slave name. No, it's not. What, because it's English? What, niggas didn't speak English? Ain't you speaking English now? So what, you a slave now? So what? So if my name is Alex Clarence L, and I done all my paperwork and all of that, and I done really gone to the extra length to make sure that I am representing who I am, and I can stand on that square and always be that and pass that on to my children. How am I a slave? Because it's an English name. Nigga, you rap in English? And rap don't sound the same in any language to me other than English. I'm sorry. I could flow with you if you speak in Wolof, if you rapping in Wolof or French or whatever. I can flow with all of that. But what I feel, what I understand. So you build with the people. You keep it simple, stupid. You build where the people at. So based on what I'm talking about, based on you understanding what Moorish Temple is, you could be a Moorish American in Sweden, in Africa, in any place you want to be, as so long as you understand the tenet by which you are living by. So when these crackers start doing this bullshit and start coming and saying, oh, Moorish Americans is this and that, don't fall into that. So long as you ain't using terms like sovereign citizen, sovereign trust, sovereign society, any of that, you good, man. They can say what they want because, see, the Prophet gave you a religious organization to stand by. All you got to do is invoke the Religious Freedom and Restoration Act. You can't abrogate my religious right to be a Moor. Are you crazy? Are you crazy? Are you saying you have more jurisdiction over me than God? But see, when the devil talking about God, he's talking about government, ordinance, defense, Department of Justice. When you talking about God, you're talking about the ultimate creator. So my man emailed me another picture of a giant portal opening up in the sun, another pyramid opening up in the sun around my birthday, thank God. And right after that, right before that, a whole block, a 9-acre sinkhole. Portal just opened up, swallowed a whole block. I don't even know why you're getting on there. I was going to take calls. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah, nobody went in. If anybody wants to ask any questions, you can go call us up at 347-637-1184. But as we proceed, they also bust this congresswoman down. And the story allegedly was that she was found no longer alive in her apartment, and she allegedly had this wound to the headpiece. So with that, all of these things opening up, I'm seeing again a change of the guard. And remember, I told you, whenever the new year comes in and a new freshman class of certain senators have to get taken out, so new ones can get put in. Also, I heard that she was also in the discussion about the Moorish thing. She actually was pro-Moorish, so that might be something to do with it. So this Operation Scimitar thing, you need to look out for that. And the tenets of that also are a lot of these so-called ritual killings, like this black man that went out and said that he was trying to kill his man for the so-called Illuminati sacrifice. I'm sorry, man. This is why I tell him to go in the room. The so-called sacrifice, they got him. All of that is triggering because not only are they watching what we're saying and listening, they're trying to create scenarios and opportunities for them to take advantage of us in those positions to utilize the intel against us, to stop as many of us from really getting right as possible. So that way the only Moors they really got to deal with is these white boys, who we as Moors going to have to deal with too. Any Moors, temples, sheiks, in the sound of my voice that hears these things that I'm saying, and you really about it, because I done wrote these jokers. You know what I'm saying? Not the gnomes, but the other ones. I done wrote these jokers, and they ain't holler back. So I already know that it's some BS. So the one that they talk about, Hakeem Bey, a.k.a. Peter Lambert, and the rest of these jokers, these dudes was all part of Operation Camp Hero. They all came up through that operation. So you have to understand that they've been well-versed in that, because there's a history between Noble Drew Ali and Aleister Crowley that these Moorists in the Moorish Science Temple ain't going to tell you. Just like there's a history between Pastor Beverly Randolph and Noble Drew Ali that they ain't going to tell you. Just like there's a history with him and Queen Elizabeth, as well as the other Moors that was helping divinely prepare him and get him to that level. But each one of these Moors who came after them had their assigned positions and did what they were supposed to do. But it was right around the time of Sweet Daddy Grace and Father Divine, he was getting people started getting caught up. These niggas started doing their own thing. Malcolm and Adam Clayton Powell and them, they were still holding it down for the people, but they were still doing their own thing to glorify themselves. And we suffer from it because one thing about evil is organized, and they know how to pull it together because that draconian system works, that lash. And because these niggas was domesticated and allowed themselves to be domesticated through that situation of voluntary slavery, because that's what they did. They voluntarily enslaved themselves by spiting us to keep latching on to these fake names and these fake titles that, and then choosing to marry foreign and not marry within their own family. This became a problem. So now you got these ignorant Negroes on these shows like the Doctors of Hollywood or the Doctors of Atlanta, whatever these so-called boule chicks are that's on this show. And one of them is so ignorant that she done married this Hindu nigga who obviously got his nationality. She said, well, we done created a new race. They call Black Adeshis. Like, what? And it was so funny that it was sad, because you could tell that this Sikh nigga, he's coming up off this black chick. And because these black chicks only see things in the context of how my baby hair going to be, how they going to grow up, whether or not they're going to be secure, they ain't going to be like no nigga, even though you came from a nigga that was just maybe, God forbid, as ignorant as you, which is why you wound up in a situation. When somebody come to you and start talking to you about the right thing, about nationality, birthright, and heritage, you look at them like they crazy because they wearing a turban or this, and that. But you'll go to some party with some white woman sniffing coke, right? Sniffing coke and getting into the ritual, with the sex ritual with the white man and all the other shit, right? Or you talk all this crap about black men, and then you wind up in a relationship or a marriage where for 27 years, this white man beating you up in front of your kids, calling you a nigga, all of that, right? Stacey Dash, right? That's how it goes. Gabrielle Bouvet hooked up with the white man, right? Hooked up with the Caucasoid. This nigga cheated on her from the 4th day of the marriage for years. Had this dude's albino babies. Mm-hmm. How is that supposed to help my daughter? How can I use this woman as an example as my daughter to show, hey, this is somebody that actually stuck it out with a real man, with a human, with an Asiatic? And why is it wrong if I call attention to those things and because I have a penis that somehow or another I'm bashing a black woman? And all I see. That's all I be seeing. I be seeing women on these shows, and that's how I know that this is affecting the world, because this is what the world is seeing. These wild Africans just bugging out. So again, if that's what it means to be that, that's not what I am. So again, if I meet somebody from the continent of Africa, I don't treat them like an African. I ask them what their nationality is. Understand? Where in Africa are you from? Oh, you Nigerian. Oh, you Sudanese. Oh, you this. You see what I'm saying? I'm not going over there looking like that, and they not treating me Like I'm their long lost brother. They looking at me like, wow, I forgot that there was niggas like you. Because we different. But we're the same. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with me loving being a Moor or understanding that that is a universal understanding of what culture and God and all that shit is in one. And me being able to exist in that and not being molested on the street because I happen to have a so-called car or vehicle. And without all of these people creating all of these fake and phony trusts and all that, knowing that my prophet already set one up for me. And that whether or not I want to accept, when I say he's my prophet, he's not somebody that I worship. He's somebody that was a part of my family, somebody that loved me enough to allow me to get something that helped me and helped organize all of the dogma that I was bogged down with through all these damn Africans and African historians and African laureates giving me all of this history and none of the actual shit to really put it together because I'm getting it in the context of all these separate empires. So what I know my history to be is what it is. And I don't give a damn what American Scholar, what CNN, what Fox, what the state government or whatever got to do. But to really be able to talk that, I got to put it into practice, which means that I got to make sure that I am always dealing with these niggas in an international perspective. So that I'm never in a position to just deal with them as that. So every time they call me out of my name and leave the eel off, I bring it back to the fact they got to do it and put it in the record to do it. They don't want no real more to stand on this, sit on this, the stand and go in. They don't really want that. So they'll get these little ones that don't really know what they talk about. They'll do that, but they really don't want no real more to get up there and demonstrate. They don't want it. I'm telling you they don't. And it's not a threat. It's the truth. Because they don't want it nowhere in the record that you could go back and do it. Because I already got the file. The God's already blessed me with the knowledge, with the files and shit, and the evidence in court that's already been rendered this year that says that they got the right to and have to acknowledge it. And if they don't, that you can call eternal affairs on them. So when they say that you are more and they want to do this and do that to you, you better tell them. Well, call the FBI and call IA right now. They want to know who I am. So we're going to run an investigation on you because you trying to kidnap me. But that's what's really going on. The state governments are trying to still kidnap Moors and make money off of them. Because they make money off the arrest warrants because the warrants are based on a quota system. Therefore, any police that's joining up with the police today that's not a Moor and that's not going in there to revamp it and turn it on the level that it's supposed to be on is your enemy and is using a position against you, or they just don't know. Every Moor that's in the sound of my voice in the United States, that's real. That's militant and all that. Go take the sheriff's test, man. Moors need to start being sheriffs and shit like that. And with the Moorish vote, you'll get in. Because the sheriff is elected by the people. And the Moors are the only true people of the American Constitution because they're the only ones that fall under the free national Constitution because it predates the so-called United States Constitution by over 25 years. And the United States agreed to uphold it. Therefore, from the preamble to the 7th article represents the free national Constitution. And when you take your free national name and declare it and proclaim it, it becomes what it is. Therefore, you fall under the protection of the United States, and therefore you have the right to elect within that. You don't have the right to vote, though, because you can't vote, because voting is a privilege, and you have a divine right to choose through suffrage. You have the right to choose. Therefore, you can't vote because vote represents suffrage. suffering. And the Moors are not supposed to suffer. Because suffer means to vote. Suffrage means to vote. Women's suffrage movement was white women fighting to vote and withholding sex from their Caucasoid husbands who were in the Freemasonic Scottish Rite lodges, going through the homoastic, orgiastic rituals, through the Crowley Rite, Golden Dawn Rite, the Asophic Rite, Scottish Rite, gayship, Mamluk system, where they had to wear aprons to hide their nakedness that they would wear after the orgy. That's why you wear them now. So the ones in the Blue Lodge don't know, and they're the ones who's supposed to know because they're the ones who are holding in trust for the Queen. Therefore, you have the right as a Moor when you're international to function as an emissary of the so-called crown. The true crown is the fez, remember? The Tarbush, the war bonnet. Only the true and living Moor, the turban. Turban Moor can do that. Fez Moor can do that. Therefore, if she is the holder of York through the marriage of the Coburg-Saxe-Gotha, which was the old marriage of the old Yorks in the Bavarian Empire, you are a direct descendant of that. You have the ability to establish it in its proper context and access those lands. That's why the International Common Law Court was set up to do that, and it did it. And she had to abdicate in Canaan because that was the ancient roots of the queens of Seba, because the queens of Seba were the daughters of El Seba, and El Seba is over here. Therefore, Sheba, who was also Al-At, was the head that the Moors, the big buffalo people who had the buffalo emblem in the movie Miracle at St. Anna, that was the head that they was walking around with. That was Al-At, which represented the original aspect of Muslim, and it was American Moors that was taking it. And you know it's true because there was a scene in the movie where he was shaking and choking a Nazi, and his head was in the same visage, Moorish head profile that the mountain was in. And the people seen the significance, just like King Schultz saw the significance of Siegfried and Brunhilde in Django when he was telling the story. It's like, oh shit, this is Siegfried. She is Brunhilde. As a Moor, I have to help them. That's why he didn't want to shake the Scottish Rite man hand at the end, because that would have sealed the deal that when he went back to the Holy Roman Emperor and told him that they was still brutalizing the Moors through the Skull and Bones thing, that would be like he agreed to it. That's why he'd rather kill the white man than do it. The white man would rather kill the white man than to do it. What that say? The only one that cried when he got killed was Stephen. What that say? To say that Moors don't suffer fools. To say that you got to be so, to really be that noble. When you say peace God, when you say peace queen, when you say peace empress, peace goddess, peace sheik, peace sheikas, when you really, to really be that, there's a part of you that got to be dispassionate, and there's a part of you that got to let niggas play theyself and let niggas take the hard way and bust their head up and almost be imprisoned and all of that. Because you will slow down your vibration to do that, and then you will wind up in the same nigga trick bag with everybody else, and you got bigger things to do. The Al-Moroccan Empire needs you. The Societas Al-Malakanos Estados needs you. Al-Maghreb, Al-Aqsam, Al-Sheikh Al-Meksum, Al-Amazone needs you. That's what needs you. The kingdom of the Khadam of the Elohim, Be'anu, needs you. The divine government of Syrian, the theocratic nation state of We Are More Science Temple, that's who needs you. Your children and them need you alive and well and in good mind and in noble character to be able to transcend this bullshit reality into the real shit and not get caught up in some 14th Amendment shit that was really offered to you almost like an offer. Well, you could go into the free national government, or you could go into the United States government as a 14th Amendment citizen. We can naturalize you into it like that. And in that way, you get some of the privileges and be able to, get a business and get a house and things like that and all that. But that also signs you up to get lynched. That also signs you up to get segregated. That also signs you up to get raped and ritualistically sacrificed. That's what it sets you up for. And to be further Christianized by black Scottish Rite Satanists who would rather be that than be noble morals. Like I said, she would rather be bait. And I'm so bold and so brass in my understanding that I know that this chick and this nigga be doing the knowledge to us because of the fact that they got them on the 4 vibration. And that's me and Selena's vibration. So they're almost like the mirror version. So when I'm seeing these people take these mirrored poses and stuff that I've seen the Queen in the videos and stuff like that, I know that this is what's going on. So I know that there's a big joke going on with this whole Bay thing and her being Bay and then us being from Brooklyn and not being in Brooklyn and all this other crap that has nothing to do with the fact that this person is a portal for niggerdom. And these people, when they get to this level of the game, they become so ego-driven and so possessed by the falsehood of Scottish Rite that they don't even know. They got this nigga from Mississippi thinking he a roster. Like they got people totally on their ear. So, brothers and sisters, now is the time that as they start picking and choosing which more they're gonna sacrifice and put up and try to act like they're not real and all of that, the real ones is going to become more and more harder to deny. And the fake ones that's on the take of the black desk and is being paid through the syndicate and is putting out all of this other, information that really are stage ops, a part of this grand op, this Operation Scimitar thing that is somehow connected to the thing that's going on in Syria and is being pumped through this Scottish Rite Shriner bullshit. You got to look for, again, rash mass shootings. You got to pay attention for isolated targeting systems. You got to stay away from situations that seem to be about the people, but disingenuous energy is around. You got to watch these people pumping this African shit to you and pumping this whole, black unity with no defined agenda. At least with me, I can't speak for no other more. At least with me, you know what I'm dealing with. You know what I'm standing for. You know what my platform is. It's spirituality or God, family, nationality, birthright, inheritance, which is all of that. History, culture, and law is like the sub thing. But in that, that's a stratified system based upon the fact that there are already tenets in place for us to reestablish and reconstitute what has already been reconstituted. The problem is not CNN. It's not the cracker. It's not the CIA. It's not NSA. It's not these devils. Those devils already know the protocol that they got to follow. The way that they get in is through these niggas. It's through these agents that they already got at play, at work, in the general community, pumping the falsehood, pumping the dreams, pumping the whole backwards agenda, and not fully purporting a general idea of how to get out of the situation. It's simpler than you think. That's the irony. It's so simple that these niggas don't want you to do it. Let me tell you this. If every Moor that was in, let's say, the state of Philly said that from now on, every day I go out, I'm going to be fezzed out. And I'm going to always talk to people, and I'm going to do what you see these Mormons doing and the rest of these niggas doing. If every Moor started going out and doing that and demonstrating in public on all of that, you will understand. The whole thing will start to switch up very quickly because it is the offensive that has to be taken, not the defensive. The defensive is challenging a jurisdiction. It's dueling these people into something that don't exist. We're not here to duel with them. We're not here to be in a situation to continuously argue a point that does not make any sense. And none of these domestic temples can tell you how to do it. The only ones that can are the ones that may be functioning under the revised Heard-Smith statutes. But again, those statutes are only as old and as only as relevant as the people who understand how they are to be used and how the temple is to truly function. But then anybody that's really functioning with those know then that the true temple exists within and can be verified and validated as such, both Quranically, both biblically, both no jumping on one, both biblically, apocryphy, and all of it. Yet we have to get to the point where we trust each other enough to be able to share certain things without fearing that somebody's going to mess it up. And like I said, the reason why is because there was a preponderance somehow of these women, these queens, who started coming through a situation where they started to allow themselves to marry inferior beings. And then these Moors started to mate outside of their own betrothed and started to create started to take control of the harem situation, and then it all went to hell. Once the queen couldn't be trusted with holding on to the harem, it was over. Everybody thinks it's the other way around. But in Moorish society, it was different. The man and the woman was equal. I don't know what these Muslims is talking about. You know what I'm saying? And you know, when they had the women, they had to, you know, veil up to the face and all of that, and have no burqa, all of that. That the queen said that's what consequence want his white woman to be. He said he wants gender pen and a burqa with a hijab on. He wants the only Jewish Nubian queen. But anyway, that's what these niggas want. Like what's some other shit? There's an unspoken rule. Just like they said, an unspoken rule in the NOI is that no minister could be darker than a brown paper bag. So it's the same thing in the rap industry. They say all the dark-skinned girls, they get put to the side. You know what I mean? All the light-skinned girls are the ones that everybody wants. And that's cool if that's your preference or whatever. Anybody's going to hate on you, but it's really not cool because, believe it or not, the world's getting darker every day. But it's okay. Because the real Moor is going to know. Because the prophet said that the Moor is going to have to take on more than one wife just to maintain civilization. That's what the prophet said. And so far, I ain't read nothing that man said that ain't been true. They can say what they want. They can make all the DVDs they want. They can make all of the smear campaigns and all of that against Prophet Noble Jolly or whatever. I believe a myth on that man over some bullshit truth from a liar any day. You understand? For one thing, nobody came and just gave it all and left you something to be able to do with it. So all Islamists could do is tell you to go to the mosque. And in every mosque in the United States, especially in Brooklyn, they got a CIA desk in there. And then black Arabs, these black niggas that be dyeing their beards red and all of that, these are the slave catchers. Those are the ones that's there to get you in on some bullshit. Then outside of that, you got the one that they building up in Manhattan, the Cordova Mosque, which any real Moor, if you know how to do it, can get the keys to. And this is part of the reclamation. And like I said, now that the Queen has abdicated, none of these state governments is under any jurisdiction. So that's why they're just abdicating people's authorities and shooting people and killing people and all of that, because they hope that the regular people don't know. So the United States government is trying to force them into some sort of subjugation through this healthcare thing and trying to buy out and reset the government. But the government can't really reset itself because, again, it was taken with George, but it's still vested in the name of the Queen. The Queen was vested under the name Liberty. You understand? So now that the liberty of the United States is gone, the liberties are taken. Liberties have been taken. You understand? Therefore, the true original Queen is supposed to stand up. That's why they made an image of Michelle Obama with a crown on, because she's the new Queen. That's why Michelle Obama could touch the Queen, because she's the only reason why that nigga's in office right now. The only reason. I keep it that real with you. He'd have been cool, but you really wouldn't believe him if he had a white wife. Which we don't. If he had a white woman as a wife, you would not be president now. Nobody would vote for him. You only trusted him because he had a black woman with him. So imagine. So of course they're gonna put the crown on her, because if they put a crown on him, you know, these white people go crazy. But they could do it with her, because really the bloodline is not passed through her, and her brother is the head of all the original Hebrews congregation in Washington. So again, this is the Queens of Sheba now coming back into position. This is now when the black woman and queen is supposed to stand up. The white people over in the Liechtenstein family know they done let the Moor marry back into their family openly now. And the Liechtenstein is Hitler, okay? That's Hitler, and that's Anna Nicole's daughter through Hans von Kovenbach. And what you call it? Birdhead, whatever the nigga name was, who was with Howard Stern. The other Howard Stern, not the Howard Stern with the black mammy Robin, the other one, who was the gay lover of the dude. So they holding on to Hitler's baby, Hitler's granddaughter, who happens to be a Liechtenstein, which means that she's now descended from this black woman who just married into their family over there. This is what Jay Electronica doing over there. Niggas trying to link it back up, trying to make it on some fake power move shit. That's why you got these people moving to Brooklyn and acting like they always been there. Because all of this, like I said, is prophecy coming back to be fulfilled. But a real mall, but a real bay, a round bay, it ain't going to work. She's going to have to be out. Because vibrationally, they're going to keep energy-wise certain things just won't even come to you. That's why to be a real noble, you got to really start from the ground up, man. And to do that, it takes a certain degree, to me, not only humble, at least in my situation I learned, it is not even beyond humbleness. It's like you just being indifferent to certain things to not get emotionally wrapped up in the outcome of what it's going to be, because these niggas going to do what they're going to do against themselves anyway. And it's not up to me or you to waste time in trying to save somebody that don't want to be that. That's why I would never be nobody's Messiah. I would never want nobody to be that for me. I would never be nobody's leader. But I could be a spiritual advisor and help you do that. To help you any way I can. But in a time where portals is opening up, that's swallowing up whole blocks in the United States, I'm telling you, it's over. So they could come out and say, oh, the Moors is whack, or they don't have this and don't have that. That's what they're saying on TV, man. They ain't telling me that in court, though. They ain't telling me that on the street, though. They ain't telling me that when I mail all these credentials to these niggas and all of that. They ain't even writing me back. They can't even say that what I'm saying is nothing. I ain't even got to put no protest on them. I ain't even got to do all of that. Once I do it, it's done because I function under natural equity. Because as a PhD in jurisprudence, I know that natural equity functions as that which should have been done as done. So once you do something to get an outcome, you let it be done as if it was going to be done already. Great. So essentially it becomes a situation where people don't have a way for them to function or be better, so they don't. So they look at people who don't want to be down with it and try to say that, oh, you're not black like that, or oh, you're not really down for the revolution because, you know, you're not really go out there and shoot police and all of that. Like, that ain't, the niggas who talk that ain't doing that. Because real niggas who know when the time comes to do that is going to do that. But niggas that's really talking and really showing you guns and all that, they ain't doing none of that. Because you know what? Their kids are still going to public school. They still paying taxes. You understand? They still rich switching up when a man come through. They still putting their hands in their pockets, holding their head down when a man come and say whatever. They still, when a white man challenges them to some shit, they still be like, oh, well, you know, whatever. You know what I'm saying? They not doing that. So don't let these fools bag you up with the stuff that has nothing to do with you. Also, Texas just put in an edict to check on their goals, and if their goals aren't there, they threaten seceding. And if they're successful in that, that means other states are going to do that. So I wrote about this in my book, The Dark Scope 418, that you can get at www.darkscope418.com, as well as some of the other things that are going down. I actually want to create a aspect of the page where I can start the document and assign them to the paragraphs so it's in the book that actually says that, because it's really starting to bug me out. But again, look out for agents of Operation Scimitar. You'll know them because they're offering you stuff that really don't exist, and they're starting to target different aspects of wars through this. Look out for so-called celebrity sacrifices or whatever. For those people that want to get real understanding on what we're talking about even deeper in terms of how to secure things based on a queen's abdication and everything else, holler at me at houseofel@hotmail.com. And remember where you heard it first, man. So when you start hearing this stuff regurgitated with other people, you know that these niggas is basically basing their shows on what we talking about on Mondays, man. Because it's really, I'm humble, but it really is bugging me out, telling me stuff that these people be saying on their shows, and it be like, these people taping the shows now and and making transcripts and shit, because it's really starting to, you know, get under my skin to a certain degree, and it should. Because I work really hard for it and put this out there and keep it as pristine as possible. So y'all got to be the vanguard, too. And start challenging this dumb shit that you hear these dudes be saying and showing improvement, so that way we can pass it and surpass this and really get it in gear. So, again, you want to holler at me, please do so for readings, bookings, book signings, lectures, workshops, whatever. Musical performances, holler at me at houseofel@hotmail.com. We're going to have a show on the 1st, next Monday. No, is it Monday after next? Yeah, I think it's next Monday, actually, down here in Miami. Check my Facebook page, Aseer Ali Cordoba. Check it out. Big up to Saga Assad, www.sagassad.com, as well as www.aseerthejugateers.com. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, get at me about whatever, houseofel@hotmail.com for readings or whatever. And thank you guys for the support and ordering and having patience with us, getting all the orders and all of that out. Because, again, it's really just me and the Queen and no more. So thank you. Love and light. Good night. And Islam.